The Galactic Council sat in the largest chamber in the known universe, each member older than entire galaxies, each voice heavier than a collapsing star. They had seen wars that destroyed planets. They had watched empires rise and fall like sand in the wind. And yet, today, silence ruled the hall. The council had gathered for the usual reports, a review of trade routes, border disputes, and minor conflicts, but the usual reports were missing. Instead, every sensor in the chamber blinked with confusion. A strange signal had appeared in the outer edge of the galaxy, a signal unlike anything they had ever seen. The first to speak was the voice of the Xylo Dominion. "This reading, it is impossible," he said, his many eyes narrowing. "Nothing in our records matches this." All heads turned to the screens floating above. The image showed a small fleet, human in design. But unlike any human fleet seen before, the ships moved without sound, without light. They absorbed energy, as if the stars themselves feared them. Council members leaned closer, their curiosity mixed with fear. "What are they made of?" asked Lyra of the Thalaxian. Her voice shook, though she tried to hide it. "No known metal, no known energy source," another replied. "And yet they move like they own the void." The chamber filled with quiet whispers. Alien races who had conquered hundreds of worlds now felt the chill of uncertainty. They had underestimated humans for centuries. Humans were young, small, and weak. But this was something else entirely, something powerful, something they could not predict. The council debated quietly at first. Some believed it was a trap, a new weapon designed to test them. Others feared it might be the start of a war they could not win. "Send scouts," Vatha commanded. But the scouts returned with the same answer. The human ships were gone, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a strange dark energy. The energy was alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. Sensors could not measure it. It bent light, warped space, and whispered through the minds of those who tried to study it. Even the most powerful telepaths in the council felt unease. "What is this power?" Lyra asked again. No one had an answer. The humans had arrived, and nothing about their ships made sense. For the first time in millennia, the council felt fear. Not the fear of defeat, not the fear of loss, but the fear of something unknown, something beyond their control. They were the rulers of the stars, the arbiters of law and war. And yet, here they sat, stunned into silence. Vatha banged his clawed hand on the council table. "This is not a fleet," he said, his voice low and urgent. "This is a statement." The other members nodded, though their expressions betrayed their dread. The humans were sending a message that the council could not ignore. And for the first time, they realized that the young species they had once mocked might now hold the power to change everything. The chamber grew quieter. No one dared speak. Even the ambient stars outside seemed to pause, watching, waiting, and in that silence, the council understood one terrible truth. The humans had arrived, and the universe would never be the same again. The council stared at the sensors. They had expected metal, engines, and weapons. What they saw instead was darkness itself. The human ships absorbed all light, reflected nothing. The void around them seemed alive. It moved with a quiet hunger, like the universe itself had formed a shield around these vessels. Vatha leaned forward, his many eyes widening. "They should not exist," he whispered. "How can something be there, and yet not be there?" Lyra shook her head. "They are made of nothing," she said, her voice barely audible. The other council members exchanged looks. Some tried to reason, some tried to call it a trick of the sensors. But deep inside, all of them felt the same fear. The human ships glided silently through space, not following any known formation, not obeying any known law of physics. They moved like shadows with purpose. Darkness wrapped around them like a cloak. Even the council's fastest observers could not track them for long. The ships appeared and vanished, leaving trails of dark energy that refused to fade. The council scientists attempted to scan the vessels. Lasers, pulses, probes, nothing penetrated. It was as if the ships themselves rejected observation. The more they tried to study them, the more the chamber filled with tension. Whispers turned to murmurs, murmurs to panic. "What is their power?" one counselor asked. "Could they destroy worlds?" Vatha's voice cut through the fear, calm but sharp. "They are not weapons in the way we understand weapons," he said. "They are something new, something beyond our science." The council fell silent. Every species present felt the weight of a truth they could not yet name. Humans were no longer the weak species. They had become a force that even the oldest and wisest could not comprehend. The dark ships gathered near a small star cluster. The energy around them pulsed and twisted. Gravity itself bent around the fleet. Stars seemed to flicker in fear. And still, the humans did not fire. No explosions, no attacks. Just the presence of something too powerful to ignore. Lyra turned to Vetha, her voice trembling. Why would they show us this? Vetha's claws tapped on the council table. Because they want us to see, to understand, he said. They want us to know that the universe has changed, and we are no longer the masters of all we survey. The council realized then that this was not a test. It was a demonstration, a message sent not with words, but with power. Outside the chamber, the stars watched, silent witnesses to an event that would be remembered for millennia. Even light itself seemed to pause, trying to understand what the humans had created. Every member of the council felt it, a shiver of awe, a pang of fear, and an unspoken question. Could they survive what was coming? The council debated, but no solution came. Every plan failed. Every theory collapsed. The human ships existed beyond their understanding, and the more they studied them, the less they knew. Finally, Vetha spoke, his voice low and certain. They are not ours to stop, he said. They are something new, something beyond control. And in that moment, the council understood the truth. Humanity had grown. Humanity had evolved. Humanity had arrived, and the darkness of their ships carried a message that no council, no species, could ignore. The human fleet drifted silently. The stars themselves seemed to bend away from them, and for the first time in centuries, the council felt small. They felt uncertain. They felt the weight of something greater, something unstoppable. The council had ruled the stars for millennia, but today, they were stunned, and in their silence, they understood that the humans were no longer the species they had once mocked. They were the future, and the universe would have to respect that truth. The council watched in disbelief. The human ships had not fired a single shot, yet the emptiness of space around them trembled. Energy twisted and bent, as if the very universe obeyed the fleet. The councillors leaned closer to their screens, trying to see, trying to understand. But what unfolded was beyond all their experience. A small star system, empty and abandoned, became the stage. The human fleet moved in perfect formation, dark matter engines humming softly. It was quiet, almost peaceful. Then, without warning, the dead moon in that system began to shift. It trembled, cracked, and compressed, gravity itself bending toward the human ships. The chamber erupted in alarm. "This is impossible," Vetha shouted. "Nothing in physics allows this." The moon collapsed in on itself, a silent implosion, and yet, no explosion followed. No light, no heat, only a ripple through space that could be felt. The council could sense the power, not with sensors, but with their very minds. Lyra's many eyes widened in fear. "They are not firing weapons," she whispered. "They are changing reality itself." Vetha nodded slowly. "Yes, this is a demonstration, not an attack," he said. "But the question remains, what can stop them?" The human ships moved again, dark energy flowing like water. They created a pocket of altered gravity. Time itself seemed to slow inside it. Even light bent and twisted. Every councillor felt a shiver, as if the universe had shifted under their feet. And yet, the humans remained calm, their fleet silent, precise, unstoppable. The council debated urgently. How can a species so young wield such power? One member asked, "How do we survive this?" Vetha's voice cut through the panic, calm and certain. "They do not attack for conquest. They attack for proof, to show us they can, and we cannot stop them." A silence fell over the chamber, heavy with fear and awe. For centuries, the council had been the ultimate authority. They had controlled galaxies, ruled empires, and judged wars. But now, they watched humans bending the rules of existence, and for the first time, they felt powerless. The human fleet paused, hovering near the collapsed moon, like a predator showing its strength, not to kill, but to warn. Vetha spoke again, his voice trembling slightly. "They are not here to destroy. They are here to prove." The council felt the weight of the message. This demonstration was a test, not of humans, but of the council itself. Outside, the stars seemed to shimmer uneasily, as if they too understood the power humanity had unleashed. The dark ships pulsed with quiet energy. Every pulse, a statement, every ripple, a reminder that humans had grown beyond expectation, beyond prediction. The council finally fell silent. No words could explain what they had seen. No plan could stop what humans had created. They had moved beyond fear, beyond war, beyond death itself, and yet they offered no attack, only proof. Only a demonstration of unimaginable power. Lyra whispered, almost to herself, "They do not strike first, but nothing can strike them last." Vatha nodded grimly. "Yes, they have learned the rules we never knew existed." The chamber was still, every counselor lost in thought. Realizing the truth, the humans were no longer weak. They were the new force in the galaxy, and the universe would have to respect them. The first demonstration was over. The human fleet drifted silently away, leaving behind a galaxy stunned, a council shaken, and a universe forever changed. And in that silence, one thought echoed in every mind: this is not a warning. This is proof. The council still reeled from the first demonstration. Every member felt the quiet, unstoppable power of the human fleet. But questions remained. Why had humans grown so fast? Why had they mastered dark matter, a force even the oldest races could not control? Vethra spoke quietly. "They were not born powerful," he said. "They were forced to become what we now fear." The chamber listened, eager for answers. For centuries, humanity had been underestimated. Young colonies scattered across empty systems, small, weak, and vulnerable. They had survived countless attacks from older, stronger alien empires, and each attack had shaped them, forged them into something new. Lyra leaned forward, her voice soft. "They endured," she whispered, "and from suffering, they grew stronger." Vatha nodded. "Yes, every loss, every raid, every colony destroyed, taught them resilience. They had no choice but to adapt, and adapt they did." Beyond imagination, the council listened in stunned silence. Humanity had faced extinction more than once, and each time, they had used the universe itself to survive. Their scientists had studied dark matter, not for war, not for conquest, but for survival. For the first time, the council understood. Dark matter was humanity's shield and sword, a last hope born from desperation. The chamber fell quiet as Vatha continued. "They do not seek domination, they do not seek revenge. They seek survival and freedom, and in the process, they have become something more." The other counselors murmured. It was a revelation. A young species, shaped by struggle, had surpassed even the oldest empires. Lyra's eyes widened in understanding. "They created their own rules," she said. "The universe became their tool, not to destroy, but to protect themselves." Vatha nodded. "Yes, they never strike first, but they never lose last." The council could feel the truth in those words. Humanity had been forced into darkness, and from that darkness, they had built power unlike any other. The counselors could not hide their awe. Every strategy they had used for centuries now seemed fragile. Every war plan outdated, every prediction worthless. The humans had rewritten the rules of survival, and in doing so, had rewritten the rules of the galaxy itself. Vatha's voice grew solemn. "They learned from our mistakes. They learned from our wars. They learned what it meant to fight and survive in a universe that would not forgive weakness." The council realized that humans were not reckless, not dangerous without reason. They were cautious, patient, calculated, and their patience made them even more formidable. The chamber felt the weight of centuries. Every member knew that underestimating humans had been a grave error, for humanity had chosen darkness, but that darkness had become their strength. And the council, rulers of the stars, could do nothing but watch and wait. Lyra whispered to herself. They were forced to this path, and now, we must respect it. Vatha placed a clawed hand on the table. "Yes, respect and caution, for the humans are not our enemies, not yet, but the power they wield is not to be ignored." The council sat in silence, every member reflecting on the young species they had mocked for centuries, and finally, the truth settled over them, heavy and undeniable. Humanity had chosen darkness, not for conquest, not for pride, but for survival, and in that choice, they had become unstoppable. The human fleet drifted quietly through space, dark matter engines pulsing softly, a reminder to the galaxy, a reminder to the council, that humanity was no longer weak, and that the universe itself had changed, because they had endured, and they had learned, and they had chosen darkness, and that darkness would not be ignored. The council could no longer hide their fear. The demonstration had shattered their confidence. Every species, every leader, felt the weight of the unknown. And now, the question hung in the chamber like a dark cloud. Are we next? Vatha slammed his clawed hand on the council table. "We underestimated them for centuries," he said. And now we see the truth. Humanity is beyond us. Whispers erupted. Some counselors called for immediate action. Weapons, fleets, strikes, anything to regain control. Others begged caution. Perhaps they offer peace, one said, trembling. But can we trust them? The chamber divided. Old rivalries flared. Accusations of weakness and cowardice filled the air. The council that had once ruled without question now argued like children. The human fleet drifted silently, a quiet reminder of the power they now faced. The council's fear turned to desperation, and desperation bred conflict. Vetha's voice cut through the chaos. Calm but sharp. We do not understand them, he said. They are not here to conquer. They are not here to destroy. They want something else. Something we must grasp before we act. The chamber grew tense. Some still refused to listen, clamoring for war, but others realized the truth. The humans were not enemies. Not yet. Meanwhile, the human ambassador appeared on the council's screens, silent, composed, and confident. The being spoke in a voice that resonated in every mind. We come with peace, but peace comes with terms, it said. The council shivered. Terms? Who were these humans, that even the rulers of the stars had to listen to them? Vatha leaned forward. They do not demand submission, he whispered. They demand respect, understanding, and that is more terrifying than any weapon. The chamber fell silent again. Every counselor reflecting on centuries of arrogance. They had mocked humans, ignored humans, and now they faced a species that could bend the universe itself. Some council members proposed surrender. Let them have the outer systems. Let us avoid a war we cannot win. Others wanted to strike immediately. Destroy the fleet before it grows stronger. But Vetha shook his head. No action is safe. Any attack risks annihilation. The council realized they were trapped by a force they could neither understand nor fight. The human ambassador continued. Our terms are simple, it said. We seek peace. We seek survival. We do not strike first. And we do not strike without reason. Vatha felt the truth in the words. Humanity was cautious, patient, calculated. Their power demanded respect, and the galaxy would have to adjust. The council debated late into their cycles, but the decision became clear. Humanity could not be fought, and ignoring them was no longer an option. The council had to bend, to accept the new reality. Even the most stubborn races realized this truth. Finally Vatha stood and addressed the chamber. The humans are not our enemies. They are our equals in power, and perhaps our teachers in caution. We must accept this, or we risk everything. The council nodded slowly, reluctantly, some with fear, some with awe, all with understanding. The human fleet drifted silently, watching the council, a quiet strength radiating from every ship. The galaxy itself seemed to pause, acknowledging that a new power had arrived, one that could not be ignored, one that demanded respect. And in that moment, the council broke, not from violence, not from defeat, but from the realization that a young species, shaped by darkness and struggle, had become unstoppable, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The final thought echoed in the chamber. Peace was offered, but it came with conditions. Conditions the council could not refuse. And humanity had won, not with war, but with power, patience, and the quiet command of the universe itself. The council had finally spoken. The decision was made. Humanity's terms were accepted, and yet, silence hung in the chamber. Not a silence of peace, but a silence of awe and fear. A silence that spoke louder than any words. The human fleet drifted away, dark matter engines pulsing softly, each ship like a shadow moving through the stars. No attack, no threat, only presence. And in that presence, the galaxy understood a new truth. Darkness does not mean evil. Power does not mean destruction. And humanity had proven both. Vatha stood in the council chamber, looking at the screens that still held images of the human fleet. They are guardians, he said quietly. Guardians of what we cannot yet fully grasp. Lyra nodded. Yes, they are young, but they carry the weight of survival and wisdom. And from this day, we will measure every action with care. The galaxy watched as humans returned to their systems. Silently, deliberately, their dark matter ships a symbol of strength and restraint. Even the oldest empires paused, for they knew the stories of what had happened. Stories that would pass from one star system to another. Legends of a species that had endured, learned, and emerged stronger than anyone had imagined. The council recorded the events carefully. Protocols changed, borders redrawn, new laws created to respect humanity's power. Even wars were reconsidered, for no one wanted to provoke a species that could bend reality, and the humans had not struck a single blow. They had only proven that they could. In the outer systems, colonists watched as the fleet glided past. They whispered among themselves awe and pride in their voices, for they knew that humanity had survived every threat.